Welcome back to the Quick Fox channel. You're here with Tom in my dump truck, Dumpy, and I wanted to do a walk around video. I did one. I wasn't proud of it, so I thought today I'd do a little bit better of a job telling you the story with this old beat down project of a truck. It is a 1985 GMC K3500. It's got a 6.2 Detroit diesel and turbo 400 transmission, and that's married to a NP205, which is the new process transfer case for the four-wheel drive system. All of that's connected to GM corporate 14-bolt rear end and a Dana 60 Kingpin version front end. Originally, the truck made about 148 horsepower. At some point in its lifetime, the truck got a new motor. It was rebuilt by Jasper, and I'm sure after all the years that are on even the new build, it's probably got less than 148 horsepower. In 1985, this diesel engine was revolutionary. It allowed a truck like this to get 18 to 20 miles to the gallon, and even though it didn't produce much horsepower, it was very reliable. It is a Detroit diesel, which means it leaks all over the place, and I've replaced the rear main seal, the oil pan gasket, did the oil pump when we were in there, of course, front main seal. I think it's the valve covers now that are the biggest culprit, but from what I've heard, Detroit diesels like to leak.
I updated the CDR valve system to help with the engine leaks as well. The engine mounts had so deteriorated that the fan had destroyed the lower fan shroud from interference. Replacing the mounts visibly straightened the engine in the compartment. In addition to giving the truck a terrible paint job, the previous owner had replaced the hood, likely because the original was folded when the hood hinges had rusted. I've replaced a lot of the hoses, the upper and lower radiator hoses, the transmission cooler lines, and oil cooler lines. The power steering pump was hanging on by one bolt. I had to weld the bracket back together as I couldn't find a replacement. The rear drive shaft got new U-joints and bearing, and the front drive shaft was completely rebuilt with a new slip yoke from a local shop. One day on my way home, I lost all forward gears. The transmission had to be removed and sent to a local transmission shop for a rebuild. One of the hub locks was damaged, so I went ahead and replaced both with worn locking hubs. The tires, springs, shackles, and shocks were all replaced all the way around by a local shop. The old tires literally started to fly apart as I was driving down the road. The braking system was completely overhauled, with new front rotors, pads, rear pads, wheel cylinders, proportioning valve, master cylinder, and brake line. The underside of the cab is pretty crusty, probably worth a new cab altogether. Someone has put new floor pans inside, so I guess that'll do for now. Moving on to the interior, you can see my custom turn signal lever and my custom-made steering wheel. Someone had a spare seat online and gave it to me for free. The original was pretty torn up. This one's just got one little tear in the back, which I sewed together with some purple thread and covered in crazy glue, and it made a pretty solid repair. It's been holding for a couple years now. The old seat belts were pretty ratty, so I picked up some new ones from LMC Truck. The glow plug controller must have gone out on this truck at one time, so someone just installed a manual push button. The headlights, turn signals, and windshield wipers needed wiring repairs and new switches. The steering column is really difficult to fish, so I just installed the new wiper switch on the dash. Here you can see the new heater motor, and a new wiper motor was installed as well. I managed to find a decent Western snowplow online, added the controller, the unimount, and all the wiring needed to make it work. I put a little switch in the front, so if you have the plow, you can flip the switch to having a plow or not having the plow and the headlights operate correctly. The dump bed has definitely seen better days, but with new sheeting on the floor and repairs all over the place, it's pretty functional. The tailgate's pretty straight, although I have had to re-weld the chain and straighten some brackets and find some new pins. I also added this crane to the back. I just fabbed up some steel mounts and welded them to the dump bed. It was pretty cheap from Harbor Freight, and it's been great for moving my diesel generator, and I even used it to pick up the transmission when I had it rebuilt. Over the last 35 years, the dump bed subframe has had plenty of opportunity to develop character. You can see the many bends, breaks, and repairs that it's gone through. In using it frequently and inspecting it thoroughly, I've determined all of it to be pretty rock solid despite the way it looks.
Can I say the Chevy Square Body is a good truck? Heck yes I can. I've really put this thing through a lot of abuse, and for being the way it's designed, it's performed very well. That being said, for anyone who's thinking about buying a 35-year-old truck and trying to use it on a daily basis, you should know that I've had to fix every system on this truck. And I didn't have time to do that, and I didn't have money to do it either. So the saga of this truck is rich, unlike me. So if you do have an opportunity to buy a new truck, old trucks are cool, but I think I'd probably rather have a nice, comfortable, air-conditioned truck that rode nice and started when I wanted it, and went into gear when I wanted it, and stopped when I wanted it, and dumped when I wanted it. I mean, now I have an old truck that does all those things, and it leaks everywhere.